I often ask myself this question: is it possible for angels to engage in conflicts, like we do as humans? Does the Bible mention any of these disputes? Of course it does. The book of Daniel provides us with a unique window into the activities that can involve angels in the invisible world of spirits. The short passage demonstrates that angels do engage in spiritual combats that has a direct effect in the physical world. World history and the future of nations have been and will continue to be impacted by conflicts between righteous spirits, who serve God, and demonic, or evil angels. The book of Daniel is the subject of our first conflict example. It all started after he had fasted and lamented for his nation for 3 full weeks. Daniel 10 verses 1-3. Then, he had a vision of a divine angel. The angel claims that God sent him as soon as he started to be contrite and pray. However, why did it take one of the most potent spirit creatures ever made, and possibly one of the strongest, the Archangel Gabriel, a few weeks to travel spiritually to Daniel? What led to such a lengthy delay? Well, it was because the prince of the kingdom of Persia stood in Gabriel's way, preventing him from delivering God's message as soon as he normally would have. Daniel 10 verse 13. The opposition was so fierce that he required the assistance of another mighty angel of God, by the name of Michael, to help him push through and deliver his message. So, does that mean angels are vulnerable too? And if evil spirits can withstand angels, could humans also give it a try? Not so fast. Even the most helpless spirit beings cannot be defeated by humans. Hebrews 1 verse 7. The lowest of angels could kill countless people at will in a small group. When faced with the power of spirit-composed beings, flesh and blood beings are completely defenseless. Mark 16 verse 17, Luke 9 verse 1. When God wanted to protect Jerusalem from Sennacherib's attack, he only needed one of his angels to destroy 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in a single night. Isaiah 37 verse 36. I will come back to the full analysis of this great fight between an angel and the soldiers later in this video. Please watch to the end to know what really happened. But from the story in Daniel, you can note that Daniel must have been the target of an evil spirit willing to engage in combat with a powerful, righteous being. The Prince of Persia was not human at all, but by withstanding Gabriel, he was indirectly fighting Daniel. You must also note that a human prince would not have been able to resist an angel. Daniel 10 verse 13 uses the phrase, the prince of the kingdom of Persia, to refer to a strong demonic spirit. The Bible occasionally makes use of this symbolism, as in Ezekiel 28 verses 12-19, and Isaiah 14 verse 4. Although these passages from Ezekiel and Isaiah initially seem to be speaking to ordinary human kings, they actually speak of a strong, ambitious, and conceited spirit who rules over all the disobedient spirits. For instance, a normal human king couldn't have been in the Garden of Eden. Notably, Gabriel did not claim that any random person battled him in an effort to prevent his message from reaching Daniel. He was opposed by an evil spirit who was the Prince of Persia, not of Babylon or any other country. It appears that God has given angels various principalities and powers, Romans 8 verse 38, Ephesians 3 verse 10, and Colossians 1 verse 16. For instance, the Archangel Michael is referred to as a chief prince and a prince of Israel in Daniel 10 verse 21, in reference to the authority bestowed upon certain spirits. The devil has similarly given some of his evil helpers positions of power over earthly kingdoms, Ephesians 6 verse 12. When Gabriel approached Persia, he encountered opposition from, and likely had to engage in combat with, an evil angel, with subdued demonic powers under his control. This evil angel was given the power to sway the affairs of the world's power. After a vain 21-day attempt to vanquish the demonic force governing access to Persia, Michael arrived and assisted Gabriel in breaking through to deliver his message. All of this leaves one to wonder, how many angels battle every day? Gabriel was sent by God directly, so anyone who prevented him from completing his mission was almost certainly an opponent of righteousness. Could the evil prince of the kingdom of Persia, who nearly put an end to Gabriel's journey, be a strong person? The quick response is, no. The destroying angels of God. The destroying angels, also known as Mashit the destroyers, or the spoilers, ravagers, are the supernatural beings dispatched by Yahweh on various occasions to assassinate the adversaries of the Hebrews. These angels, called Malach, are also known by other names, such as Memedim, executioners, slayers, or angel of the Lord. They are mentioned in Job 33 verse 22 and Proverbs 16 verse 14, where it is referred to as messengers of death in the plural. One of Gehenna's 7 chambers was also known by the alternative name, Mashchith. The inhabitants of Jerusalem are killed by the destroying angel in 2 Samuel 24 verses 15 to 16. The same angel of the Lord, described by David in 1 Chronicles 21 verse 15, is depicted as standing between the earth and the heaven, with a drawn sword in his hand stretched out against Hebrews' enemies. It is believed that he was the angel that later killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in 2 Kings 19 verse 35. Angels of retribution and destruction are members of a group of angels known as Satans in the Book of Enoch, with Satan serving as their leader. They tempt both evil people and fallen angels first, then accuse them, and finally punish and torment them. Such angels might be viewed in Judaism as being the result of a person's sins. God allows man to repent as long as he lives. The sentence handed down in the heavenly court, however, is permitted to be carried out by the destruction angels after death. Faith and miracles go hand in hand. God struck many people to protect the just. As I said in the beginning of this video, I will describe how one of the angels of God preserved Jerusalem during Hezekiah's rule, which was around 700 BC, the time period noted on the Bible timeline poster. Now, Shalmaneser V, Sargon II, and Sennacherib were all Assyrian kings during Hezekiah's rule, 726 to 697 BC. Along with his father, King Ahaz, who subjected Judah to Assyria during his reign, also served as the co-regent. It so happened that Shalmaneser besieged Samaria in 722 BC, and his brother Sargon II took control of the city 3 years later. He ordered the expulsion of Samaria's inhabitants to other Assyrian lands, 2 Kings 18 verses 10 to 11. During Hezekiah's rule, Judah underwent both religious and political reform. Hezekiah collaborated in organizing an uprising against Sargon in 713 to 711 BC with the kings of Ashdod, Edom, and Moab. Merodach-Baladan, the former king of Babylon who was deposed by Sargon years ago, may have incited this uprising. Azuri, the king of Ashdod, was deposed after the allied kings opted not to pay homage to Assyria, but Hezekiah later changed his mind, Isaiah 20. Following the death of his father Sargon II in the Battle of Tabal in 705 BC, Sennacherib ascended to the throne. He didn't waste any time in overthrowing Babylon's king Merodach-Baladan, a longtime foe of his father. Invading Judah's kingdom, Sennacherib also conquered the town of Lachish. When Hezekiah learned of this, he made Sennacherib an offer to pay tribute in exchange for his armies leaving Judah. 2 Kings 18 verse 13. Hezekiah's tribute was accepted by the king of Assyria, who then went on to Jerusalem to besiege it. After Sennacherib summoned him, the king of Judah dispatched his ambassadors, but Sennacherib's chief of staff disparaged the king of Judah and his army. To avoid frightening the populace, his ambassadors requested that the Assyrian chief of staff speak to them in Aramaic rather than Hebrew. The chief of staff for Sennacherib disagreed because he wanted the people to know what would happen to them if they refused to submit to the Assyrian army, and wanted to make an example of the Samaritans. The prophet Isaiah received the message from the Assyrian chief of staff through Hezekiah. However, the prophet foretold Sennacherib's death by the sword and advised the king to disregard his threats. Sennacherib surrounded the town of Libnah, and then departed to repel the Egyptian king Taharka's assault. Hezekiah received a message from Sennacherib requesting his surrender before he left. When Hezekiah lost hope, Isaiah once more sent him a prophecy assuring him that Judah would be safe and that Assyria would be defeated. According to 2 Kings 19 verse 35, New International Version. That night the angel of the Lord went out, and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. When the people got up the next morning, there were all the dead bodies. So, an angel killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers that night, and Sennacherib then went back to Nineveh. His own sons later murdered him. Esarhaddon, his youngest child, succeeded him as ruler of Assyria. The same story is corroborated in Isaiah 37 verses 36 to 38, the Message translation. Then the angel of God arrived and struck the Assyrian camp. 185,000 Assyrians died. By the time the sun came up, they were all dead, an army of corpses. Sennacherib, king of Assyria, got out of their fast, back home to Nineveh. As he was worshipping in the sanctuary of his god Nisroch, he was murdered by his sons Adramelech and Sharezer. They escaped to the land of Ararat. His son Esarhaddon became the next king. Thank you for your support.